Alright, so looking like a pretty normal loop this time then. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Maybe it's not as normal as usual. So Yuri can use best girl energy to get out of sus allegations? Okay, I never thought Shigemichi would be trying to bang Yuri, but here we are, you know? Why is SQ acting like crazy like that bitch, that little girl? Does that mean that role can change too? Does it mean that the role of like his slave master can change per loop too? It's really interesting how the exact same sequence we've seen before completely flips on its head by just inviting yourself into the room like this. And only a role that Yuri could do in this form. So this is basically what ended up happening a couple episodes back when we sent him to cryostasis and we got attacked. Just rather than a psycho lolly looking girl, we got a giant slime attacking. Oh, so the loops where she's not around is the doll that didn't make it in time. I'm going to my fucking cold sleep, goddamn. So I guess we can say the biggest question, the biggest mystery of this show has finally been answered. Many of us have been thinking, Yuri, what is their gender? I mean, with a show that's as gender fluid as this, you know, look at Setsu, right? Does not conform to a single gender, like many of the characters. I guess we now have our answer. The answer is yes. Yes to it all. I guess most arcs, Yuri does look at themselves as a guy, but boy golly, the bazongas don't lie on this loop, do they? That's from the video. Make sure you drop a like, share your support, subscribe if you're new around here, and Patreon so you can catch my full live reactions to all these episodes and more, which also helps fund the channel and videos just like the one you're watching. So, we are now 10 weeks in, and this show has somehow found every single week to feel like it's dropping the first episode plot twist. And what I mean is when you watch those shows, you think, okay, yeah, this is pretty good. And then that big bombshell happens and you're like, oh, this show's way more interesting than I wanted to first give credit. And typically the rest of the show after that bombshell kind of functions as you're waiting for that bombshell to happen again. Maybe it happens at episode 3, 5, 7, right? But what does Gnosia do instead? It does a unique bombshell nearly every week. When that little psycho went on a rampage, stabbing people in cryosleep, you think, okay, that's going to be that. And then I look at SQ here, and it feels like she's tormenting this poor boy exactly like she was doing. I have so many questions there, but the big thing about this loop is they fooled me again. I thought for sure we were leading into a part 2 next week. No, the loop's already over. The loops will always be one episode seemingly, but the loops are always unique. So essentially what ended up happening was Comet's slime went haywire. So essentially Comet, I don't know, she's an idiot. She accidentally froze herself. But the slime that's attached to her was like, well, I need a new host. And then it became Attack of the Slimes. And essentially it just killed everything looking for a new host. So what ends up happening, Xiaoming and Yuri end up going into sleep here. Xiaoming doesn't want to wake up because Xiaoming's a Gnosia in this loop. And at this point, we can safely say if Xiaoming ever locks himself in his room, that means he's a Gnosia, because essentially we know he's probably one of, if not the most honorable and nice characters on this ship when he's around. He plays up this role because he tries to hide his true feelings, like, don't talk to me, I'm this playboy. If you come in here, I'm gonna violate you. But, like, it's him just scared. And I love the fact that Yuri, you know, because of previous knowledge, was able to do that. Though with that said, it doesn't change the fact that Yuri, when basically she says to turn off the lights, because he's like, well, if you come in here, I'm going to do much more than just give you some tongue. The fact that Xiaoming, we have so much information about at this point, it leads to so many possibilities to really explore his character, because not only him, Rakio is also an interesting one. We've never had this much of a buddy-buddy experience until Yuri became a girl. I don't know if this says something, but it was super interesting because we essentially had a conversation that we would normally only have with Setsu, but with Rakio this time. And it's interesting to see how helpful it was prior to everything imploding, because essentially this arc starts out where, you know, they want to vote with everyone in the room. So if he's locking himself away, we're going to keep postponing the loop or the vote until he's out of the room. And it was so cool because I'm basically waiting for the end of the episode to happen, but I thought SQ was going to stab everyone. I thought that's what they're going to do. And this is what I mean about how this show, you think it's playing up, that it's basically just going to do the same bombshells again. So because we saw a little doll girl stab everyone in this brutal fashion that humans and Gnosia alike were scared shitless, you think, oh, this time it's going to be SQ, and instead it was Comet Slime. Complete misdirect. We may never see the slime thing again. But we're probably going to wait for it to happen again. The big information that I think is going to go a little overlooked just because of how much happened is her. So she's not always in the loops, right? But apparently she is always on the ship. It's just there's two different dolls. The one that moves around and can talk and interact with people is essentially the replacement to Jonas's lost lover, right? It can move, it can interact, and that's the one that goes crazy sometimes. If she doesn't make it on the ship when fleeing, the only one Jonas is left with is a body that can't move. See, what I thought they were building into was the slime taking control of that body and it doing a savage rampage. This is what I mean. It's a pretty much impossible to predict show because you think, oh, here's going to be the expectations, and they're still finding new ways to deviate away from everything. Yuri's gained a hell of a lot of information, but I think the biggest thing is that despite how chaotic this loop ended up getting, it kind of proves to Yuri that because of the amount of variety there is for everything, it means there's probably a way to make everyone live happily ever after. And as we know, when that device is fully filled and it leaves Yuri's body, there's no more do-overs. All the information that Yuri has built up to that point will have to be used perfectly in order to complete a loop where everyone gets their happily ever after, or at the very least, Yuri doesn't have to get killed. Though I don't think we've ever seen Renman be a Gnosia, right? Or at least we've never seen him attack, so that could be an interesting one, especially given the trauma that the kids went through seemingly from escaping a slave trader. I don't know, this is a really good show, and I think it doesn't get the respect it deserves, because I've seen a lot of shows where it drops maybe a couple of really fun plot twists, but those few plot twists are always going to be used as the next, like, stepping stone into the following plot twist. Where this show, I feel like I've seen at least 7 in 10 episodes. Like, there's probably been 2 or 3 episodes maybe total that have functioned a little more similar, but they're always dropping, like, the most savage twists that I'm like, oh, this feels completely unlike anything else, and this may have been a completely one-off plot twist, which is wild because it's so creative. I mean, it also proves that it takes a real man to be best girl, which you always love to see, and I always love to highlight, but you get my point. I don't know, this show has been wonderful. I think it's the most creative show I've watched this season in terms of just, wow, this show should have just been an edgy who kills who show, but the complexity of when people become Gnosias and, like, they have to do their role. Like, when our boy says, hey, freeze me, or I'm gonna freeze myself, because he has to follow the rule that someone dies every night, right? That's the code of the Gnosia, but they still act like themselves, and that's so interesting. Let me know your thoughts down below, though. Drop a like, share, support, subscribe if you're new around. Of course, Patreon, full live reactions and exclusives like Hales. Like to give video shows to my patrons because they make these videos possible. So today we got the Dragon's Thorn, Brooklyn, RN Jedi, Flitz, Ranka, Katrina, Ash, and we also have Banjo. So I appreciate the support. Please take care, and y'all have a good one.